Morning, everybody. Welcome to Lockpod. This is the Midwest's most dangerous podcast. You're listening to Season 13, Episode 12, live from the NECA IBEW Power in Indiana Lake County Studios at the Smith-Sursick Law Firm.
Good morning.
Hey.
Halfway. I feel like we're halfway.
It's the biggest entrance in the biz.
Just rolls off your tongue.
In the biz. Morning, Joe.
That's what we call it.
Jay Vaz.
Hey.
Are you feeling about halfway, John?
Oh, man. Isn't that great to hear that, Episode 12?
Mm-hmm.
That means 50%.
Yeah.
Halfway there.
Like it's like hump day.
We give our audience 24 hours of pleasure every season.
Or 50%.
Or more.
Or what?
Or 50%. What was it last? What was it on Tuesday? We're a medium
quality
entertainment.
Yeah, we're medium quality entertainment.
I think that's fair.
That's a good way to put it.
If we were paid, it'd be high quality entertainment.
No, I mean not necessarily. You think we'd bring it more if we were paid?
Totally, I would.
So you're only bringing halfway right
Dude,
now.
I would actually brush my teeth and do my hair in the morning.
You'd actually look at the note.
I go to the Tom Cam. You look pretty good.
I prepared the note, buddy.
Yeah,
for the most part today.
Yeah. So
and
there
this
you
one,
go.
what?
See, that's
this
what I'm
show
saying.
is.
But that's what I'm saying. Well, how much harder are you going to bring it if we were getting paid? I think you're bringing it pretty hard.
I bring it pretty hard.
Yeah, you do.
It's like, yeah. Thank you, John. I appreciate it.
What?
Let's make. I mean, let's be honest.
What?
I'm carrying this fucking thing, right?
And now to the Kevin Cam. Look at that face of disappointment.
Kevin's like
sullen.
Look right into
I'm salty because we didn't have pre-show last night, Jill. Kevin's like, I'm busy.
Oh, that's where this is coming from.
I'm the first to admit.
Is that why we were getting text messages?
I'm the first to admit that Tom is the locomotive of this show.
Today.
Always.
Today. No, today.
Yes.
Today I am. Today I was.
You bring it.
No, Kevin and I, and then when Kevin and I are falling apart, you guys step up. It seems like primarily pre-show, like everybody's got their roles. Pre-show seems to be Kevin and my burden mostly, right?
Pre-show.
Yeah, pre-show's a bitch.
Pre-show. I'm just going to drink my coffee here. Thank you,
right,
Jill.
I'll just shut up.
Since Kevin doesn't do anything, he's just going to check out entirely.
Today.
Yeah.
I was holding my coffee because thank you, Jill. Tom said everybody has their roles.
24 hours.
That's really
we have 24 hours
Kevin.
of work every season.
We do, not including pre-show.
Actually, more than 24 hours of
It's
work.
a lot more.
So I said you give them more than 24.
Thank goodness, by the way. Hurricane Milton made landfall, and my buddy's house is spared.
I was going to give an update. Yeah.
Greg's house is spared.
Awesome.
Tampa Bay, because it hits further south than it was supposed to, and Tampa Bay, the water got sucked out of Tampa Bay. It was literally dry.
Ethan said that he was fine too downtown.
Yeah?
Yeah, in his new place, no problem.
Does Ethan live next to that famous, what is it, Captain Jack or whatever? You guys see videos of that guy, or is it just me?
Oh, that guy in the bay. The guy.
Lieutenant Dan, thank you. He's the one he's got one leg, and he's clearly fucking crazy.
He's a pedophile.
What?
He's a pedophile?
He's a sex offender, I heard.
Allegedly.
Whoa,
Hold
allegedly.
on.
Oh, no, I don't think
We're not
going
to
to
get. We're
We
not.
don't
Yeah,
want
we
the
don't want to get
lie.
sued again.
Thank you, Jill.
Sorry, Lieutenant Dan. Like,
John,
we
please roll
revoked
the
that.
disclaimer.
Yeah, let me roll that disclaimer.
There
it is.
The views expressed on this show are Jill's and Jill's alone.
That's right.
Run a quick background.
Jill Gajewski's address is for service of process.
Kevin, you're going to be my lawyer, so shut the fuck up.
Yeah, Lieutenant Dan, no. He rode the storm out, and they were trying to get him to move.
Yeah,
and it's a dude with, literally, he's got one
Yeah.
leg, and he sits there, and he's clearly nuts. And then they went back to him yesterday after riding the storm out, and he's sitting there smoking a joint. He's sitting smoking a joint on the pier with one leg, just sitting there.
Damn.
Chilling. He's like, I already smoked 2 joints, and it's like, God damn, this guy's hardcore. He rode the whole storm out.
Yeah, I think you're right though, because it hit a little further south. Tampa didn't get it. Ethan reminded me, of course. He said, Dad, there's this like theory that there's a Native American burial ground in Tampa, and that's the.
I saw that.
Right, you've seen that? Yes. He's like, yep, it worked again.
Wow.
Didn't get a direct hit.
Well, I mean, it seems to me like that just scared me enough to stay away from the Tampa housing market. Because, I didn't realize that if that storm hits a little further to the north, all the water from the ocean rushes into Tampa Bay and floods everybody
They
out.
said it's like the perfect storm for like
and they haven't been hit
pun,
in over 100 years, right?
Yeah, over 100 years.
But one day they're going to get hit.
Yeah,
And
you
the
would think.
freaking water's going to go into Tampa Bay instead of coming out of it, and I don't want to be anywhere near that.
No.
I'll just stay here in Indiana.
I don't know. I mean, I think if you get in a high rise, maybe you'll be okay.
I agree. I think
Yeah,
Ethan
like
should
a
have done that.
condo.
Why doesn't Ethan do that?
What?
Because he wanted to go to West Palm Beach and hang out.
No, I mean, he was literally, I think just being a newbie down in Florida, he was like, everyone's getting out of here. My friends are getting out of here. I'm getting out of here.
Yeah.
So
I would have hung it out and become a TikTok star.
So
hung out with Lieutenant Dan.
Funny enough, I did call him last night, just like, hey, I hadn't really talked to him. We'd been texting a lot during the week. And I'm like, there's a lot of music in the back. I'm like, what's going on? He goes, oh, we're out celebrating that we survived. I was like, oh, God. Great. All righty.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Did you hear that Lieutenant Dan? So there's a streaming platform called Kick.
Yeah.
He's been offered a $2 million Kick streaming deal, and they're giving him a $100,000 new boat.
Don't depress us.
Can you believe that?
And here we are, season 13.
Episode 12.
What the?
Only bringing it halfway because we're not getting paid.
we're like low price labor.
Yeah.
Crazy, man.
That's bullshit.
I like
man.
that Haktua girl. She got a
Yeah.
huge deal.
Dude.
She makes one
Jesus.
comment to like a
One
roving,
degenerate comment.
one degenerate comment to
Yeah.
a roving like streamer.
She was like,
she's on T-shirts.
probably just like walking around Nashville wasted.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then boom.
Now she's a superstar.
What are
No,
we
she's
doing
not.
wrong?
Kevin,
you got-
you
Why
know what we're
can't
doing
Tom
wrong?
come up with something like Hawk 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't suck on doorknobs. So, I mean, first off, right? Doorknobs, I said. Okay. I mean, like, first off, it wouldn't pass through my mind because of that very fact right there.
I said
Sure.
something like it.
Okay,
I mean,
let me
that-
think on. I'll work on my
In
repertoire.
Tom's defense, he talked about pleasuring himself on
Yeah, he
Instagram
did.
Live
Yeah.
in
And
his
it
car.
It didn't
and
take
it
off.
Didn't
We didn't
take
get
off.
a $2 million.
Dude, I smoked a joint on this show. Like, nothing.
What does he
couldn't
have to
even-
do?
Like, what
I don't think
I'm going to go
smoked a joint on this
skydiving on
show.
season 14, all right?
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Live
do it.
skydive. Cam.
Yes.
Please do. Wow, see?
Love that idea.
Vez, I think you got to do it with him then if it's live, right?
We already went through this conversation. I
Yes.
think
John and I'll be
already
on the
know.
floor,
Yeah.
on the ground watching.
Yeah.
I went to Nashville this weekend. Speaking of
Nice.
Haktua.
This weekend?
Haktua girl. She was in Nashville for the record.
With you?
No, that would have been weird. Yeah, with Marissa and I, it was crazy. We ran
Oh,
into her, the
kinky.
Haktua girl. I wouldn't even know what her name is.
I
I'd
don't
be like,
either.
Haktua. And she'd go, hello.
Yeah.
Right. But, yeah, we went to Nashville for a quick trip.
Nice.
Like, we both like, Marissa and I both like the Violent Femmes a lot. And I had this, they were playing with the symphony in Nashville, and I put it on my calendar, and I was like, let's go, Marissa. And she was like, I have a trial, and, which is dead travel.
Mhm.
I can't travel with my
Travel
wife.
ban.
Right. So, like, and then that thing settled like a week ago. And as soon as it settled,
Oh,
I was
that
like-
opened it up.
I had to, like, a reminder on my calendar. I'm like, boom. So we just did a quickie, flew out Tuesday, flew back Thursday,
Whoa.
like a less than 48 hours on the ground.
That's a
But
cool mural that you stood in front of.
that's
Yeah.
a famous mural.
Yeah,
Is
that's
it?
a big one in Nashville.
Is it? Yeah, that's in the Gulch. I was hanging. I
Nashville
bet you I
Gulch.
spent $100 on scooter fees. I was going everywhere.
Nice.
I saw the whole city.
Guys
man.
were scooting.
And it was like 75, 76 degrees.
Looks
so
beautiful.
It was perfect. Last time I went to Nashville, it was 1,000 degrees. But yes, it
It's
was
not even
really
a
nice.
bad drive. It's like 7 right down 65.
I'm not even kidding. Marissa and I spent well over $100 in scooter fees. Because Marissa and I like to walk, but I was like, why walk in this city when you got scooters everywhere? You could scoot everywhere. And her and I, our room wasn't the best room because we booked so late. We were like a mile and a half out of town.
Mm-hmm.
We just scooted in, scooted out. Like, it was amazing. What
Like
a great,
it.
What a great city.
Not a bad flight, right? Hour or something like that. And if you're
It was
driving, it's only
literally-
like 7 hours.
It's literally an hour flight.
Yeah.
And by the way, watching the Nashville Symphony with the Violent Femmes was epic.
We got
Oh, that had to
clip
be
of
cool.
I think.
Yeah, here.
Look
I
at
got a
this.
little clip for you guys.
Where was this?
That was in the Nashville Symphony Orchestra Center.
That's where the concert was.
Someone, a person to talk to, someone you care to love. Could it be you? Could it be you? Situation gets rough, then I start to panic. It's not enough. It's just a habit of getting sick. Well, darling, it's sick. Your guns kiss off in the air. I'm my back, I can see them stare. Never get back, I won't mind.
That's awesome.
Man,
They
I
do
love
it all
that
the
song.
time.
Oh,
yeah,
God. See,
yeah, they do it all the time. yeah. What a great
Love that song.
Yeah.
God, see, like, I think
Everybody
especially
was
people
singing.
like our age,
Yeah.
it's a big...
You're young for that, Joe. You're young.
Yeah, for you to
like
know that song, you're young. for
Because
that
I'm a
for
little
sure.
young to be a Violent Femme
I am
fan.
well
No.
versed in Random
You were right in the...
Actions.
I didn't catch them when
prime.
I was supposed to then. Really? They were like,
Yeah.
because
Oh,
you
yeah.
were part of the cool kids and I was not.
Well, I could just say that I was
I listened to Van
tagging
Halen.
along with the cool kids. But yeah, I mean, the Violent Femmes were definitely big for us.
Really?
Yeah, I think
in
so.
our high school? I
Maybe
always
it's
thought of them
college,
more like
maybe.
university music, like Talking Heads.
I think that's
and,
where I got into them as college. Like,
yes.
like late,
okay.
like
but I was
college.
underwater then, so
True,
that
there you
makes
go.
sense,
It's
right?
like
I
you and The
missed that.
Simpsons.
But when I got out and went to law school, that's when I discovered them,
There you go.
and I was like all in. I know most of their songs by heart. You know.
What's
Yeah.
going on here?
That's Sarah Garvey. It's a friend of ours from law school. She's a sweetie. She was just coincidentally in Nashville.
No way.
Yeah, corporate counsel seminar, by the way. And I'm like, what is my corporate counsel doing? You could
Wasn't
have been-
invited.
You sort of have to sign
How
up
does
for
that
it.
feel? How does
Yeah.
that feel, Kevin?
Whoa!
Yeah, let's get into this. Your feelings on it.
I didn't even know about it. I wish I did.
Why don't you do that, dude?
I didn't
like,
know.
That's Sarah Garvey. She's corporate counsel. And I was like, wow, I have a corporate counsel. Where the hell is
And
he?
I could have been down for the concert.
Yes.
Oh.
By the way, she was staying in the West End. The West End was like super expensive every night, and she was on expense account, so it was great. It was good to see.
I think Tom's basically saying if you go down, you can spend whatever you want.
Yeah, dude. Smith Sursick's got
this would
freaking
be
banging
this would be City of Hammond corporate counsel.
No, I'll pay for the fee. You pay for the dinner. How about that?
All right, fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll obviously pay for my ticket to the Violent Femmes.
I am going to get into Jerome Prince, what happened in a couple minutes. I do want to talk about this. It's like something that's very sad to me. So give us a couple minutes. Kevin's got a great story. I moved it to the first segment.
Well, why don't we talk about our guest that's coming on? That's
yes.
we're not just wearing our Irish because we want them to beat Stanford tomorrow, but this is we're going to have a really phenomenal guest today. We kind of previewed it. Tom ran into Drayk Bowen's dad, Jeremy, at a tailgate a couple weeks ago.
Drayk Bowen is?
I'm sorry. Drayk Bowen is the star linebacker for Notre Dame, number 34.
He's
also he's from St. John, went to Andrean, brought him a state championship. Yeah, I love it, right? That just gets you pumped up right there. And he's going to come on. We're going to talk about what it means to be a dad of a superstar, actually a superstar and a half, because his younger son's becoming a superstar. So it'll be kind of interesting to not only talk about the Irish and get some insights into Notre Dame football, but also just talk about what it's like to be a dad of somebody who's becoming a star athlete. It's gonna be pretty neat. I mean, all of our, a lot of our colleagues and friends, we all have kids. They all play youth sports, right? And everybody's like, "Oh, my kid might be a superstar. Here we go." And but at the end of the day, it's few and far between. And Jeremy's going to talk about the fact that his son.
When did he know?
Yeah,
I can't.
I'm curious about that. Or like, what did you see that's different about your son than others outside of the physical ability? Like what emotional?
Like when they were 12, right?
Yeah.
What did your kid stand out? Was he playing with the 14-year-olds? That kind of stuff, right?
Yep.
Because I saw one kid play baseball. He's also going to Notre Dame, by the way. And I saw this young man play baseball when he was like 10, 11, 12, 13. And I'm convinced he's going to be a baseball player, a pro baseball player. Or he'll get drafted. But he got picked up. I'm struggling for his name right now.
That's all right.
But he was literally playing up his whole career, playing up like 2 years above and dominating the older kids. That's that's how you know.
I get the physical part of it, but I'm actually curious about the emotional and kind of like the how do you keep grounded part of it. There's got to be a component of this was different. So that's
not just that. How do you keep a kid that you think, as a parent, you think this kid's going to be a pro, right? Mm-hmm. But how do you keep that kid from like falling victim to being a human, like falling in love with a girl, knocking her up, going out and getting drunk?
All right, how do you prevent that?
Mason Barth.
Thank you, Mason Barth. Thank you, Marissa.
Thanks,
Thank you, Mason. I can't believe I forgot his name, but he was like watching this young man play baseball, and Mason, and I'm sure Jeremy and Drayk Bowen know Mason because he's an Andrean kid, but Mason, in my opinion, is going to be a pro baseball player. And I just watched him, and he was clearly special. You could just tell he was playing up, and he was dominating playing.
Yeah,
up.
and I think all these guys do that, right? When you saw Drayk Bowen in high school, I saw several games of his. I mean, he's running. They've used him as a running back and stuff, just because he can roll over. But that's how you know physically. I just want to know, like, emotionally and like mentally, what do you see that's different?
Well, this is gonna be a good segment.
It's gonna be great. So stick around for that.
He's coming in the third segment.
Let's do some.
Kevin,
let's
play your.
Yeah. This is kind of fun. Before we get into some other news,
we're going to talk about Jerome Prince after this one.
Yes, so this is just real quick. I just thought this was real funny. Donald Trump was in Detroit yesterday, and it was like kind of like panned as a pretty low energy speech of his, even from the Republicans. I read some stuff, but this was kind of funny. I thought that he is in Detroit at the Detroit Economic Club, kind of like Chamber of Commerce, probably, right? And he gives a speech, and he says, basically, and I don't have the quote in front of me. Do you have it here, John?
You can hear him say it.
Okay, here we go. This one.
Hello?
Hello, Don. Hello.
I'll go to the one above it.
No, this is the one. I don't want to.
Okay.
He's got it ready. Anyway, so
refresh it.
While John's refreshing it, he basically tells the folks in Detroit, if you elect her, the entire country is going to be like, well, Detroit.
What?
You're going to have a mess on your hands.
Yeah, you're going to have a mess.
He's in Detroit. He criticizes our city. I heard one of his speeches yesterday where he was talking straight up like, You could vote for the white guy, me,
I didn't
or
hear
you could
this.
vote for the black woman.
You told me about this.
I was like,
what?
what are we doing here? Like, I hope that was AI, right? I literally heard it last night, and I didn't clip it, by the way. But, like, who talks like that? Who talks like that? And even in real life.
Donald does.
That's
He's in
up
a
for
speech.
There it is.
whoever
Sorry.
is going to be a next president. I think Kamala, it's not going to be high on her list. I don't think anything that we're talking about today is high on her list. The whole country is going to be like, you want to know the truth? It'll be like Detroit. Our whole country will end up being like Detroit if she's your president. You're going to have a mess on your hands. She destroyed San Francisco. She destroyed, along with Newsom, California. And we're not going to let her do that to this country. We're not going to let it happen.
All right. So,
Do me a favor,
hey,
John.
thank you, Detroit.
Yeah, right. Don't forget to vote.
Detroit Economic Club is who he's speaking to.
It's going to be a piece of shit.
It's like, you want to know the truth? It's going to be like Detroit, like this shithole. I mean, I'm here talking to you
Look
guys.
at this shithole you guys live in.
If there's any defense, he's probably thinking they have a self-awareness that Detroit is not doing that. Great.
Sure, I
I
don't
don't
thought
know.
that, but I mean, those guys are all there like every day
It's not
working hard,
good.
right?
This is where I live.
And it's
asshole.
another scenario where he just kept going with it. He didn't just say it once.
Right.
He had to
Like-
say it 2 or 3 times.
Like you think it might have been a mistake. Nope.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
Type in Trump, white guy, black woman. Like, just see if that speech. I think it was the same speech. Being honest with you, I'm pretty sure I saw it last night. It might have been Detroit. Like, he was literally like talking. You could elect the white guy, or you could elect the black woman. And I'm just like, I've never heard anybody
I guess
talk
that's
like that.
that's a way to put the election. Sure.
Like, I've never heard in real life. Like, if we're just talking, I don't hear people talk like that ever. And he's in a goddamn speech running for U.S. president talking like
Yeah.
that. What?
This was
Well,
a
you
day
probably
ago.
don't surround yourself with racists either.
Welcome to
I
Detroit.
just don't get it, Jill. He's
losing it.
he's not a normal person at all.
I just think his ego is so big that he thinks. I think he really thinks whatever I say, people are going to like.
Oh yeah, I agree
No matter
with you,
where I
Gary.
am, no matter what my audience, even if I'm in Detroit and I shit on Detroit, it's still going to be okay.
Well, I just saw a new poll. He's leading every swing state, so
Yeah.
whatever he's doing is working.
It's funny. I saw a different poll that said he's
you
losing
really?
every swing state.
That's crazy.
It's funny. I don't believe a fucking poll I ever hear. I don't believe anything
No, that's
anymore.
true.
I just
That's
don't.
true.
Like,
Yeah.
I will never, as a candidate, I'll never spend money.
And
Unless I have money like laying everywhere. Like, if I'm like the candidate with the millions, I'll do a poll just
There you
to. But I won't believe it. Okay. But if I'm in a tight race where I'm like scrapped for cash, there's no way in hell I'm wasting money on a poll because it's bullshit.
You know
Like,
who went after him right away was Gretchen Whitmer, and I know you're a friend of her. I mean, not a friend. You're a fan of
Yes,
Gretchen Whitmer.
fan.
Yeah, fan.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a
I
fan,
put her
too.
in the Taylor Swift category with me.
Oh wow,
Not
all
that
right.
high though.
After
Okay.
the video I saw yesterday, I'm a fan also.
Gretchen's great, man.
Yeah.
I had my
Burrito
choice
video.
who to hang out with between Gretchen and Pink, and I went to Gretchen
Yeah, you did.
in a second.
You're a political junkie.
I gave the stiff arm to Pink,
Whoa,
and then I went over to Gretchen.
that's cool. She went after him real hard.
Tom gave the stiff arm to Pink.
Mhm.
Yep.
Mhm. All right, let's do Jerome. We got a lot to do before we get to Jeremy.
Okay.
So
I don't like this story. I mean, but we're going to cover it because we're Lock Pod, and this is what we do. Okay. But this is one that hits close to home for me because Mayor Prince, former Mayor Gary, he was never on Lock Pod because him and I were scrapping, like not getting along. We were friends for a long time, and then when he became Mayor Gary, it's
former
weird.
county councilman, former county assessor,
Yeah, Jerome Prince, good
former
Marine.
veteran Marine.
Great guy, man. Like Jerome is a great guy. I mean, I've known Jerome for 2 decades, and he's a gentleman. He loves his wife dearly, like idolizes his wife. I've never seen him acting inappropriately in public. I've never seen him say anything out of line. Like I have way worse mouth than him. I'm like way crazier than him normally. But what Jerome didn't realize is these campaign finance laws will end your career. And apparently, because he pled guilty to this,
And issued a statement.
Did he?
Yeah.
In court? No.
No, like a public statement.
Did he?
Issued. Yeah.
I didn't even see
Yeah, it's in
that.
the paper today.
Oh, was it?
Mhm.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Could you read that in a second?
It's very similar to this. It's pretty
Is it?
official.
Oh,
yeah, so
it's probably taken right from the pleading.
Yeah.
So, I've only seen this once before recently. It was with Mayor Starhura when Mayor Starhura was caught doing something with his campaign finance. It was clear.
had to do with the casino, I think.
Yeah, he was gambling. And at that time, Mayor Starhura submitted a plea at the same time he was indicted, right, Kevin?
Yeah, they kind of went around the indictment process, agreed to let him it was like pre-indictment. I think they did it by way of information, which is the other way that you can get charged. And it has to be done by agreement, because otherwise you have to be indicted by a grand jury. And they did a submission similar to this. They just came out in public one day and said, I got indicted.
Pled guilty.
I'm going to plead guilty to this charge, pre-indictment.
We're going to go to court and let the judge decide the sentence, right?
Yep.
With the feds, in that case, the feds and Mayor Stahura were cooperating together, right?
Yeah, and I think they agreed on a sentence in his. This is a recommended,
okay.
I think, so.
But in that case with Mayor Stahura gambling with his campaign money, it was clear cut. Right, you can't gamble with casino money. There's
and I think
it's got to be reasonably related to campaign activity, right?
Yeah, and
that's
I think
the standard.
I think there was also something in there about his daughter. I remember paying off a loan or something, but it was still obviously personal use of campaign funds,
yes.
And I think that's the line you can't cross.
So obviously, Stahura was caught and pled guilty at the same time. The public became aware that he was in trouble.
It all came out at once, right?
It all came out at once.
Similar to this.
Yes, exactly. Similar to this. All of a sudden, we're going about our normal day. And then I was in Nashville when all of a sudden I started getting nailed with messages about Jerome Prince just submitted a plea agreement in court along with an indictment for campaign finance violations.
Or actually pleading guilty to one kind of wire fraud.
Yeah, and apparently in this case, and apparently I say because he admitted to this in the pleading, that's the indictment, right, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, the indictment lays out the facts that the government has to make the basis for their case, yes.
So the factual basis, Jerome apparently took around $25,000 in two separate transactions from his campaign account and used it as a down payment on a new house.
Yeah, I mean, this is it was actually kind of shocking the way that this went down, and it's kind of it's pretty obvious that it was intended, to violate the campaign laws, which is that he wrote a check for cash.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, red flag number one. When you're writing a check for cash out of your campaign account.
Wouldn't the bankers be like, what the fuck?
No, I think people write checks for cash a lot,
but
still, old school.
Out of a campaign account. A trust account.
You know what? I don't think the teller is right.
I agree.
But her job is to...
Somebody in the bank's probably that's weird.
Could be. I
don't
know
if they even noticed it.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know if they get hundreds of checks a day,
you have
right?
a trust account as a lawyer.
I have a trust account.
A trust account, which is tightly controlled and tightly maintained. And if you act inappropriately with your trust account, you could lose your law license.
Without a doubt. But it's not tightly controlled or maintained by my bank.
By
it's
you.
Not tightly controlled and
you.
maintained by me, Teresa, and Steve.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And if you don't, you could become in trouble. You could get in trouble.
I could lose my law license.
That's not your money.
It's if you
maintain it.
Yeah, for example, we get a settlement in for a case, right? That money doesn't go into my general account. It goes into the trust account, which is basically client funds. And then I distribute it out of the trust account to my client.
So if I hired
if
I hired your law firm and you're like, okay, I need $10,000 down to get going, right? Mm-hmm. I give you $10,000, you put it in your trust account.
Correct.
And then as you bill your hour, the trust account turns that into operating money, and you can take it out of the trust and put it into operating.
That's right. But trust account is for your client funds. And when lawyers get in trouble, they commingle that. They're like, I need money to pay my rent. I'm going to take money out of my trust account and put it in my operating account. Right. And you will lose your law license.
Happens all the time. Lawyers, usually when a lawyer gets in trouble, that's exactly what it is. Mm-hmm. And by the way, over the years when we've noticed with lawyers, and the reason we're talking about this with lawyers is it's very similar with mayors. Gambling to me seems like one of the bigger problems lawyers face. And then they get into a pinch and they're like, I'm just going to borrow $2,000 out of my trust account.
I'll put it right back in there.
I'll put it back in next week. Nobody will ever notice this. And then what happens is they lose that $2,000, and then they're like, dude, I got to get $5,000 now to catch up, and then I'm going to pay it back. And then they get $5,000 out, and then before you know it, they start bouncing client checks, and that's usually when the lawyers get in trouble.
It's not a good thing. The great thing about at least I've been lucky in that I've either been in firms that are very financially secure, or I have somebody like Teresa who's very great about this, and she knows it just like Steve and I do, and that's just that money's not touched. It's like you don't even touch that money. It's like it's not even there.
You touch it when you earn it.
Just for clients, yeah.
Right. So if we got you and I was your client, we had $100,000 settlement together. Mm-hmm. That money goes in there.
Correct.
We agree on the split because we had a contract.
Correct.
And then on the day that we all get paid, you write me a check out of the trust account for 2/3 of the money, and you get a check for 1/3 of the money.
And it's all on. Then I make my clients sign off on it and everything. So it's all very up and up.
So the reason we're talking about that is in this case with Mayor Prince was his own treasurer. He is basically lord over everything that came into his account, and I think this is what he was thinking, going along the same lines. I think he was like, you know what? Because Mayor Prince knows damn well you can't use that money to put on a down payment of a house, right?
Right.
But I imagine this is probably how it went down. And this is total speculation, okay? I think he was borrowing money. Because Mayor Prince isn't a dishonest guy. I think he's like, man, I'm pressed for cash. I really want this house. I got hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting in this account. I'm just going to borrow $5,000 real quick, get this process going, and I'm going to pay it back down the road, right? I really think I think if Jerome was being honest, and he's never going to come on Lockpot and explain this to us because he's got bigger problems right now, but I think that's where Jerome was coming from.
Yeah, and
personally.
it doesn't make it, I mean, it's a no-no.
It doesn't make it better. No, it doesn't make it better.
It's like
I'm
the
just saying
example you
that.
said about like my trust account. If I did that for my trust account, like, oh, I'm going to pay this right back next week. I got another check coming in.
Right.
Can't do it.
You're taking a chance that if you were ever called, it had to account for that, you'd have to disclose it.
You just can't do that. I mean, it's like, thank goodness the way my brain's wired early on as a lawyer, it's like you don't even think about it.
I've seen too many lawyers lose their license like that. And
so
then,
I was going to say in this case, what he did so he wrote the check for cash to him, and then he deposited it, and then he got it over. He took the money the next day with the cashier's check from the bank for $5,000, took it to company A, and deposited it there. And then 4 days later, he took another check for, I believe, $19,750 out of that campaign account, and he deposited it in company A's account. And then company A wrote a check to the bank, I believe, and wired the money. So I don't know who company A is. I don't know who person A is.
So there's an individual A involved in this that obviously the feds know who it is. And obviously the individual A knows everything about this case because individual A probably had to clear their name. Like, are you part of this conspiracy? And, taking money from the mayor's campaign account, using it for a down payment, individual A, are you also part of this conspiracy? Because if you are, you're going to go to jail along with Mayor Prince.
Yeah, there's three scenarios as I see it. Either individual / company A had no knowledge where the money came from and just was like, okay, thanks, Mayor. I'll help you out. I'll write the check.
Thanks for the $5,000.
Yeah, I'll write the check to whoever you want me to help you with this transaction. I'll help you. I'll write the check. Had no idea the funds came from the campaign account. 2, knew the funds came from the campaign account and was a co-conspirator, but somehow didn't get charged or maybe will be charged. 3, knew it was from the campaign account, but as a result of this plea, I noticed in the paper today that there was an agreement not to
prosecute,
charge other people involved. So that could have been part of the plea
part
deal.
of this. It was like charge other people involved with this transaction,
Something
including
like that.
your campaign finance account. And
Yeah, so it could have been part of the deal. So those are the 3 scenarios as I see it.
So individual A is probably going to be cleared, I'd imagine, right?
Yeah, they may not know who individual A is.
Okay, I think that they all know who individual A is.
No, they do.
Right.
They do. I'm just saying
Right.
we may never know.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. And, could be a family member.
Could be
be a close
associate.
friend.
Could be a businessman.
Right.
Business. No.
Could just be a real estate agent, right?
You don't even know. Right. Could be
Right.
somebody totally innocent in the whole thing,
Totally. Right.
and that's why they didn't name him, right? Because you don't want him or her to be disparaged in the paper or in a court filing if really they had nothing to do with it. So they just say individual A.
To me, and then we're not going to dwell on this, and obviously we'll cover this again in the future when Mayor Prince actually has to get sentenced. But to me, this explains a lot to me because when Mayor Prince was running against Eddie Milton, I couldn't figure out why he was such a shitty candidate. I couldn't figure it out. He was the worst candidate for mayor running for re-election I've ever seen. And I was like, Mayor, I was calling him up nicely, like, dude, like, are you okay? Because you're getting your ass kicked right now and you appear like you don't give a shit. And I was like, maybe just being Mayor of Gary is so hard that he doesn't want it. Like he filed to run, but he really doesn't want to run. And his wife was also sick at the time.
I was going to say, we were speculating that it might have been because his wife was having some significant health problems.
Yeah, it was apparent that he was not into the campaign.
It was very apparent to me early on that Eddie was running a real strong campaign against Jerome.
Yeah, Eddie was running, but you can't control that.
I agree.
You could control what you're doing as a candidate. And as a candidate, I was like, what the hell are you doing?
It was
like
a one-sided
malpractice.
deal almost.
Yeah, Eddie was kicking ass, and Jerome was nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
And I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, maybe he just filed and he doesn't want it. It's like sometimes you file and you're like, dude, I'm just doing this for my team, but I don't want to be mayor anymore.
So are you saying looking back that
he had this problem?
He already knew he had this problem.
For sure. Like if you look at the dates on this, it was predated he even taking over as mayor.
Yeah,
so
2019.
This investigation was going on for a few years. He knew about this the entire time he was mayor. He knew about this investigation. He knew what he did, by the way.
Am I right that 2019 would have been the year he was elected?
Yes.
So this is his account. The year
it was right before he
running,
took over as mayor.
He was running that year.
And so he knew what he did.
Wow.
He was being investigated for it. And like, quite frankly, at the same time, he's running for re-election against Mayor Eddy, who is a former state senator, a great candidate, and his wife was sick. So there's a lot of reasons why Mayor Prince wasn't into that election. You could tell he wasn't into the election.
This might have been a big one.
And I'm sure this is a big reason why he was just like, fuck this job. I'm done, you know?
Why,
All right, let's do-
Wait. Why, as a politician, would you ever put yourself in the position to have access to your campaign funds? Like, that just seems
'Cause-
really stupid.
No,
doesn't
but
it?
you need them constantly.
Like
That's the problem.
you, though? Like,
You know how many
you-
days in a row I get hit up for money? Like, as a candidate. And I can't give
Can
that.
you donate to this? Can you donate to that? Can you?
Every single day I get 2 or 3 things. Every single day. It's
Wow.
a couple $100 here, sometimes it's 2,000, sometimes it's 1,500, but like every day. So like if now Lindsay is my treasurer, right?
Right.
I don't have access to my checkbook. It's a
Right.
pain
No,
in
that's
the
what I'm
ass.
saying. Right. Like,
Right. So like I have to like keep track of all the people that are asking for me for money, and then Lindsay and I get together, and it's usually like a big check writing time, right? We like 6 checks she owes me, right? It's a pain in the ass to have being separated like that. So for a while I operated as my own treasurer. I didn't technically, it was Lindsay and I, and we lived in the same house, but it was a lot easier to get checks out that way. Now it's like totally, I got firewalled out, which is way safer. Okay. So I'm firewalled out. I'm happy that way, but it is a lot harder because I'm still getting hit up constantly for my campaign account. And then Lindsay and I have to I have to drive over to her house and get like 4 checks, or she has to drive over to my house and leave a bunch of checks back. So that's the reason, Jill. It's you as a mayor, and I imagine the Mayor Gary is no different than
As
the
any
Mayor
elected
Hammond.
official.
You're just constantly getting pounded for donating to the
Oh, yeah.
this charity,
Yeah, for
this
sure.
high school group. Your friend is holding a fundraiser. It's a
Little League, it's this.
and I was proud of myself for a long time that I never had a credit card. But that's one thing I did also is like, it's a lot easier with a credit card because I could like, if it's a GoFundMe, I could just donate with a credit card.
Or
Like
Act
right off the
Blue
bat.
and-
or an Act Blue.
yeah.
I do that a lot through Act Blue. So
All right, well,
Very
that's kind of
sad.
yep. It's always it's another kind of black eye in the region, unfortunately, and this was to me it was a
Whatever, dude.
shocker.
Politicians all over the country I'm sick of like talking like that about the region. I am.
Well,
sick of
I
that.
meant that-
I am Kevin. Like
well,
too many people like say this is like
I'm not
unique
saying
to
there
the
aren't
region.
black guys around
No.
the country. I'm saying this is another black eye in the region. There are
right.
black guys everywhere.
What I'm saying is politicians all over the country get in trouble.
For sure.
Right. And then there's some people, and I'm not saying this about Kevin, there's some people that like to be like, oh my God, in the region we're so corrupt. And some with like a point of pride. Like, shut the hell up. Like, this shit happens everywhere. What happened to Mayor Prince happens in California, happens in Texas and Florida.
Indianapolis.
So like, yes. So like, just shut up.
Well,
about
that
bullshit.
and I think
highest-
it.
yeah.
I'm sorry, John.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, and that kind of comment makes it sound like everybody's corrupt. Where the reality is that there's so many good elected officials in this area,
For sure.
and you get like thrown in this bucket of like, oh, it's Lake County.
I think there's some people. I'm thinking of one person in particular who just loves to talk about this, and he's like, "We're so corrupt up here." Shut the fuck up, man.
so
Seriously,
weird. Like a
you're
point
so
of pride.
stupid.
So
Yeah,
weird.
it's like they're proud of being corrupt. Shut the fuck up, man. You're a freaking sound like a fucking moron. Seriously, like this happens everywhere. It's very sad what happened to Mayor Prince. I'm very sad for him and his family. He's got a beautiful wife, a beautiful family. It just sucks, man. It just sucks.
Yeah.
And obviously, I think that I think if anything, he was cash crunched and he needed money right then. And it doesn't make it any. It doesn't make it better.
Financial stress is one of the things that drives people to do,
Yeah.
bad, things they shouldn't do.
I got a proposal.
Yep.
In studio proposal. Why don't we skip the Purdue story?
Okay.
We'll hold
Do
it
it
off to
Tuesday.
the next show.
It's a good one.
Right. We'll just punt this whole thing.
All
We'll
right.
do all of our ads right now, and we'll go get Jeremy. How about that? Because
All
I'm
right.
sure he's here. Because we went
Hope
long.
so,
We went
otherwise-
long. We went long on the first segment, and we could keep the Purdue story for the next show
for Tuesday.
It's a great story about how Purdue is shutting students
Out
down.
of voting.
You can't vote if you're a student at Purdue, so Pat had to drive home and vote because Pat's like, what's that? Family Ties? Remember that Michael J.
Keaton?
Yeah, Michael Keaton character. What was that guy's name?
Alex P. Keaton.
Alex P. Keaton.
God, you are still.
That was good.
Damn.
Alex P. Keaton. That's
like that was
that's
Jill on
Patrick.
you put Jill on the spot.
I know, but that's Patrick. Honestly, Patrick's like, how am I going to vote? Like, what the hell? So he drove.
I better
home and
drive home
voted
right away.
on the first day of voting. By the way, he's such a dork. I love
Yes,
Patrick so
yes.
much. He is like Alex P. Keaton. So he drove home and voted. He was the first one to vote against Trump in Indiana, probably. So anyway, we're gonna punt the Purdue story. We're gonna do all of our ads right now. We're gonna get Jeremy Bowen. He's gonna come in here and we're gonna talk
All
some
right,
Notre
start
Dame
us off.
football in the second half of the show. How about that? So let's start off with Power in Indiana, Lake County. It's your source for the region's most trusted electricians. Thinking of finishing your basement, installing outdoor security cameras, or does your business have plans to break ground on a new project? If so, don't leave those important projects in the wrong hands. With IBEW Local 697 electricians, you're choosing the highest level of safety and reliability. Visit poweringindiana.org today to ensure your projects in the hands of skilled professionals who deliver on time and on budget. Find your electrical contractor at poweringindiana.org.
For decades, the Ron J. Prestomer Insurance Agency has been located right on Indianapolis Boulevard, serving all of your insurance needs. The Prestomer Agency specializes in a wide range of insurance products and services, including auto, home, business, life, and much more. The Prestomer Agency serves thousands of people and businesses throughout Chicagoland and the Midwest. Call Ron O'Reilly today at 219-844-0103. They're here to protect what matters most to you.
Byway Brewing is a family-friendly microbrewery with a spacious tap room and outdoor patio, serving its award-winning craft beer, a chef-driven food menu, and craft cocktails on draft. Their brewing equipment and production facility offer a unique backdrop for events like bridal showers, reunions, or corporate parties. With their new food truck, they can cater to your corporate and private events off-site, just off 8094 at the Kennedy Avenue South exit. Discover more at bywaybrewing.beer.
I just shared the new note for next episode already.
Thank you.
Kuklakis Law. Are you facing legal challenges and don't know what to do? Who are you going to call? Kuklakis Law. That's you. Your trusted source for legal advice in Indiana and Illinois. Do you need help buying or selling real estate? Call Kuklakis Law. Forming a new business? Call Kuklakis Law. Injured in a car crash or at work? Call Kuklakis Law. No matter what your legal issue is, call 219-671-6347 to schedule your free consultation. Who are you going to call? Kuklakis Law. That's you. Hablamos Español.
When you want the best for your home and family, trust the best in the business, Rogers Roofing. Rogers Roofing has transformed homes in Northwest Indiana and Chicagoland for more than 55 years, providing quality roofing, siding, gutters, and windows, all backed by the best warranties in the industry. To learn more and to schedule your free consultation, visit rogersroofing.com or call 219-933-9145 today. That's rogersroofing.com or 933-9145. And remember, at Rogers Roofing, excellence is expected every time.
MCR Partners is your one-stop destination for top-notch expertise in economic development, finance, and planning. With a dedicated team geared up to tackle your projects head-on, they're your go-to comprehensive solution providers. Dive into the world of economic development with MCR Partners and let them guide you through the maze of opportunities. For more information, check out their website at mcrpartnersllc.com. For tailored assistance, don't hesitate to reach out to our friend Matt Reardon at 219-741-9511.
Elevate your brand with Misprint, the premier printing and sign solution in Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana. With a 30-year legacy of excellence, their experienced team, led by Rick Baltensberger, combines innovation and technology to deliver top-quality signs and printing, always on time and within budget. Conveniently located in Munster and Hammond, Misprint is your partner for creating impactful visual solutions. Visit them at misprintusa.com to bring your vision to life today.
Frankie V's, no need to dress up. It's a casual place. Bring the whole family. We have plenty of space. A hidden gem in Hammond. You don't have to drive far. Delicious food, great service, and yes, a full bar. Try our homemade pizza chips, Italian beef, sausage, marinara, and more. We have delicious pizza, pasta, and Italian foods galore. Don't go where they don't remember you. It's just not the same. Come to Frankie V's where everyone really knows your name. Visit us today at thefrankieV's.com for daily specials, full menu, and hours.
Cantrell and Cantrell, attorneys at law. Are you injured or in trouble with the law? Give Cantrell and Cantrell a call and schedule your consultation with someone who's in court and at the jail every day. Call John Cantrell at 219-5544-LAW or visit their website at bettercallcantrell.com. John and his wife, Kristen, make a great team and are waiting to hear from you.
Michelob Ultra is a superior light beer brewed for those who understand that it's only worth it if you enjoy it. Containing only 95 calories and 2.6 carbs, Michelob Ultra is a light lager brewed with the perfect balance of hops and wholesome grains, producing a crisp, refreshing finish. With Michelob Ultra, there's no better time to crack open a cold one. Head over to the Cal Brew or Michelob Ultra social media for info on this great family of beers. Enjoy the Michelob Ultra lifestyle with beers and cheers responsibly.
Tortillas Nuevo Leon is the gold standard in Mexican cuisine across the Midwest. Look for Tortillas Nuevo Leon's popular red and white label at your local grocery store and enjoy quality Mexican products made with local expertise.
Tortillas Nuevo León, hechas con amor, para ti y tu familia de todo corazón. Tortillas Nuevo León, hechas con amor, para ti y tu familia, de todo corazón.
don't know
If
the
this song
words.
doesn't get you excited,
Ladies and gentlemen, as you all know, we're huge Notre Dame fans here at Lock Pod, and I'm always usually at the games. And when I'm at the games, I'm tailgating sometimes. And I was at a tailgate a few weeks ago when I ran into a gentleman. I know his son well. Jeremy and I had never met, but I talked to Jeremy for probably 5 to 10 minutes, and I walked away like, I got to get this guy on Lock Pod. Like, you stunned me, like just what you were talking about. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, Jeremy Bowen, welcome to Lock Pod, sir.
Thank you very much.
It's
good to see you, Jeremy.
You too.
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome here. Yeah.
You know, Kevin Smith, his kids all went to Andrea and also.
Yeah.
And then we got Jill back there, and we got John Besmar.
Hey, nice
So,
to meet you, man.
Hey, how are you?
welcome
Yeah,
to the
welcome.
show.
Thank you very much.
I'm dying to ask you. So, you know, your son, Drayk, plays for Notre Dame, middle linebacker, right?
Yeah.
And is he's starting this year?
He is, yes, sir.
I've seen him a lot more this year.
Yeah.
When did you know that he was special like that?
So that's funny. So we were asked that on the recruiting trail by Coach, and we've really never
Coach Freeman?
Coach Harbaugh.
Coach Harbaugh.
And we really didn't
Coach
know.
Harbaugh. So
At
Michigan.
Michigan.
Was scouting him.
Yeah, so he had
Who wasn't scouting him?
Yeah, he had about I think he ended up with like 28 offers.
But
And-
Coach
Wow.
Coach Harbaugh is
Harbaugh.
he's one of my heroes.
Yeah, I
love
told
Coach
him.
Harbaugh.
I told him. We're on TV. I'm a crier, but I won't. So I won't go
I'm a
that
crier,
deep. But I
too.
told him when we were at the final spring game, I was like, I grew up in East Texas. Mom was awesome, but never really had means for anything. So lived a lot of different places. But I was like, man, you took a hillbilly on a journey, And so I told him I appreciated that a ton. Because of his work, and then it's a family event, right? When you're doing all that, but we've never really operated that way. In our house now with our other kids, even we all have a talk at 14 that kind of sets up what they want to do. But I told them like it's humble and hungry, and I've always told Drayk, I tell Dylan, I tell Dallas. I have the baby at 2, so he's got 12 years to figure
There you
out.
go.
But
By that time, you're going to be like a pro recruiter. You're going to know
right.
exactly how to do this,
I'm
man.
gonna be a pro dad and grandpa
Yeah,
probably.
there you go.
But
So what's your last kid's name? Does it start
Crew.
with a D?
Crew?
Crew?
Yeah. So
So you got DDD for all the kids and then C.
Yeah, so I remarried. Wife is awesome. Ex-wife is awesome. Her
Right, I'm
husband's
sure.
awesome. But
But she's like, no kids with
She
D.
didn't want to go with the D. So when I
Yeah,
was
they're like, Dirk sounds good.
I'm like, and the kids were giving her a hard time, and I told her, I said, I used to, when I was a single dad, I'd always do like #Bowen Crew, and she's like, well, he's the last of the crew, so how about Crew?
Oh, that's
And,
cool.
That's
There
awesome.
you go.
I was like, I can live with that. But honestly, to your question, I don't think you ever know until you know. But then when you hit college, there's a reset button, and you don't know again. So we would always operate with humble and hungry. And when we were going through it, I'd tell them, you're not competing against Northwest Indiana. You're not competing against the state of Indiana.
That's a great point.
You're not competing. In football, you're kind of competing against the country, but he was dual sport, and kind of like I tell you, you're competing against the world. So you don't know. There's some kid in Gary, Indiana, at Andrean that earned a top spot. There's some kid in a different holler in Alabama that's coming for your spot. So, and then when you get on college, they're recruiting your replacement the day probably a year before. But
Right.
so. Not to try to sound any certain way, I told Coach Harbaugh the same thing. I said I didn't know, and I'm not sure that I know now. So we're just going to keep our
So
head
there's
down.
nothing that sticks out in your head like when he was playing a game, you're like, holy crap, this kid is something. Or is it just like that, like every game? He was just clearly better than
So
everybody.
it was productive. He had great youth organization coaches.
Who did he play for?
He played for Tri-Town Raiders.
I figured.
And then he played
That's one of the best organizations in this area for Pop Warner, right?
Yeah,
Based in
and
Cherville, I think, right?
It was
Always was.
It is. And then he played a couple years with Crown Point Junior Bulldogs,
Which
and
is another great organization.
had a great time there.
Right.
But yeah, so nothing.
He's always the best on the field.
He dominated quite a bit.
Was he always defense, or did he play both sides?
So he always played both sides.
What was his offensive position?
Running back.
I saw him at a couple games at Andrean, and they basically just gave him the ball, and he ran over people.
Yeah.
That's me as a fan watching.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
I think if there's a moment, there was the Bishop Lures game when it was incredibly cold, and he went off for like 5 touchdowns.
How many yards?
Might have been either it was high 2s or low 3s.
What was he, a junior then? or-
Senior,
No
and
way.
it was the Mr. Football run, and there was a lot of talk about Bishop Lures taking over Andrean, and when he went off there, I was kind of like, all right.
Yeah, but by that time he had already signed his recruiting. He'd already been in. So kind of what I was curious about is, he starts getting looks maybe end of sophomore year, junior year, probably.
Yeah, so end of freshman summer, Coach Free was at Cincinnati, and they offered him at Cincinnati. And
Coach
then
Freeman was at Cincinnati then. Gotcha.
And then they
So Coach Freeman already knew who he was. And
they did
already-
him and Chad Bowden. And then summer going into sophomore year.
Okay, and then so at that point, right? I mean, we were all in high school, and we know how high school boys are. I mean, you can kind of get a big head, right?
Yep.
How do you, as a parent, you've got a son who is obviously being looked at by every major college team in the country. You've got a son who just won the Butt Kiss Award, right? I mean, which is the top linebacker in the country as a high school player. How do you keep him focused and grounded to get ready for that next level, like mentally? How do you? Because I mean, we all have egos, and it feels good for people to say like you're the best. So how do you, as a parent, get him ready for that next level?
Yeah, I think it starts long before then, if I'm being honest. So my mom worked real hard, but she always taught me, like, you're no better than anybody and you're no worse than anybody. You're one decision in life somewhere along your lineage where things could have looked different. And I think that we started doing that young. I was fortunate enough to be able to drop the kids off at school, and every time I dropped Drayk off at Kaler when he was younger, I'd tell him, hey, you're no better than anybody. We're not from here. You're no better than anybody. You're no worse than anybody, but your last name means something. So you're always representing your last name. People have different names, but the family has the last name. And I mean, the tattoo he has on his bicep, I always told him he can't get a tattoo unless it means something. Well, he stunned me when he wanted it, but underneath the cross inside the buffalo is his last name. And I truly believe that's where it started. And then at home, keeping them humbled. Like, home looks a lot different than the outside when you're having conversations and things like that. And part of it's what we said about there's somebody trying to outwork you right now. And then, just be a good person. Like, my dream was never for my kids to play college sports, right? That's their dream. I help fund their dream. But my dream is for you, love Jesus, be a good person, go get a career if it's in the trades or at college, provide for your family. And if you do that, like, I think I succeeded as a parent. So that's what I'm parenting. And I think when you're parenting, it can shine through in some of the other
I think
things.
that's obvious.
Can I ask you a
That's great.
question? You just mentioned, your faith, and I appreciate that. It's nice to bring up. Was that important in Drake's decision to go to Notre Dame?
So it wasn't, unless Coach Free is a faith.
Right.
So
You're saying, because I got this from last time we talked, like, you love Coach Freeman.
yeah,
And he seems to me like a great guy.
I do, and he does. But I mean, any kid who aspires, I think, in football, even baseball now, right? Their goal is SEC. It's always been the best. That's what they talk about. It's the best.
It's like the NFL of college football, right?
Yeah. So to go to that school wasn't faith based. It was Freeman based.
Gotcha.
And when he told me in the room before he silent committed, he said, I ain't say no to a lot of other coaches, but I can't say no to Coach Free.
Wow.
That's great. Because you and I, and at the time I talked to you, I remember Notre Dame just lost, right? I think it was the week after they lost to Northern Illinois, right?
Yep.
And then you and I were talking, and I was salty with Coach Freeman, right?
Yeah.
And I remember I was expressing my saltiness, and you were like, hey, man, be careful, because if Coach Freeman leaves, you're going to lose a lot of great players. I remember you saying that. And
Especially now with the transfer portal, it's so much easier for
right.
kids to leave.
And I remember when Jeremy said that to me, I was like, damn, and obviously, your son plays for the team. So I'm like, this is a good point I should keep in mind.
Be quiet, Tom.
You changed my course there a little bit. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so I appreciate it.
Jeremy, another question I had was, it just seemed like this season, looking at Drayk, it almost like a flip the switch. Like, from going from freshman year, and I know, as a freshman, you're not going to get a ton of playing time and stuff, but it even seemed from early in the year to maybe the last 3 games. I know he forced that fumble against Louisville and stuff, and it just seemed like a switch flipped. Have you spoke to him about just his playing and how he feels more comfortable on the field?
Yeah, so we talk every day, and I think there's a few factors. One is reps, right? I mean, when you can get into the rhythm of a game, then you can start to pick up on all your study habits. And then he's still real close with J.D. Bertrand. And Bertrand, Kaiser, they were good to him last year. Bertrand sort of, who he was closest with, but like J.D.'s with the Falcons now.
Damn.
And
that's nice. Talking to NFL players.
Yeah.
Getting groomed from NFL players.
And so he asked J.D., how do you study film? What do you do? So his cadence in film study, breaking it into smaller bits, helps him pick up on tells, formations, things like that. And then when you're getting more reps, you can start to pick up on those live, and then you play faster. You know?
Wow, interesting.
And so that he credits JD for a lot of that, and Coach Golden, of course, and Max Bola. Like he loves Max. He loves Coach Golden.
Right. But sometimes it's more effective coming from your peers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, for
and
sure,
he feels
right?
comfortable with it.
It's like
Right.
talking to your
Yeah,
buddies versus talking to your
Exactly.
teacher or your
Exactly.
dad, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Did I know that the idea of like potentially playing on Sundays, I'm sure that's in somebody's back of somebody's head, right? So when does that take off for a college student? Does that take off like sophomore year, junior year?
When you commit to Notre Dame.
I mean, but there's a lot of kids at Notre Dame that don't go
Right,
pro,
right.
right? So I'm just curious about like where that is in his development at this point.
Yeah, so I think that the production of this year sets up talk from here on out. I mean, they have a small sample size. Last year he played like 74 snaps, I think.
Right.
And then special teams.
It seemed like last year he was mostly special teams.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So his red shirt was gone after there was
True,
5
right.
games,
Yep.
and then on the back end, and he'd spell a little bit different. He probably wishes they had a 5-man rotation last year, but when you got
Right.
Marissa and JD, you're
Right.
not
It's hard to, you're
Right.
not getting
You're not
any
doing
reps.
that.
Yep.
But from my understanding, that they got to see production this year. Next year, same thing. How do you start? Where are we at? You're always one big hit away from.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Especially
true.
as a
And when
linebacker.
can you
degree.
get a pro agent? When can you actually sign with somebody?
So out of junior year.
Junior year.
Yeah,
Really?
So, yeah, you had 3 or 4 years, and so he's got it at most 4, right? Because his red
Yep.
shirt was gone.
That's right. Well, I remember.
Could he use a red shirt though? Like if he was injured or something?
Yeah, yeah. So
you
they'll
could,
have
you could keep
a
it like an
medical
insurance
red
policy,
shirt, yeah.
right?
Yep. Did one of the other things that's changed in college football over the last couple of years is NIL. And
Name, image, likeness.
yes, which is, I guess, just for those who may not know and are listening, that's the ability for players, for students, to actually market themselves and make money while they're in school through marketing opportunities. I mean, that's just a general way to put
Yeah,
it.
you can make money instead
Yeah.
of the old system where if you got a free meal, you could lose your scholarship.
Right, exactly, right. Where you were treated like amateurs and you couldn't
Right.
make any money on your name, image, or likeness, which is why it's NIL. How have you seen NIL impact, Drake or other players that you've seen in college ranks? And do you
Yes.
think it's a good or bad thing?
The short answer, it could be both, right? I think Notre Dame's very responsible in the way that they do it. Like, we weren't an NIL, and still not, as we go through it with Dylan. We're not an NIL family. I don't think you make some of those decisions on, there's got to be some financial education too, right? Because there's always taxes on dollars.
Yep.
And so what can seem like looks a lot really isn't after that. And I think Notre Dame's really responsible with what they do. I mean, they do have the fund. They are given NIL money, but it's also service-based, right? So they call them fund events. So when they go work at the YMCA, close to the
Interesting.
boys and girls. And so they'll do several of those throughout a year. Kids are able to go get other opportunities outside of there.
Yeah, like sell merch or
That's super cool.
And so they run it
That
by things.
that
but
seems like Notre Dame to me.
yeah, and so I like that. And I was telling a gentleman the other day who was also frustrated, and I was like, kids didn't choose, at least from my knowledge, didn't choose Notre Dame for NIL. There's other packages and other conferences
sure.
that are more rewarding on that front. I truly believe, outside of choosing Notre Dame for Notre Dame, so Drake's first time ever at Notre Dame was June 1st of his
freshman
year that they could go
Yeah.
after COVID, right? So
Yeah.
he was June 1st Notre Dame, June 2nd Michigan.
Wow.
And that was the first time he'd ever stepped foot on it.
That's
But
two
what-
amazing campuses,
Yeah,
too.
but what Coach Freeman did was took kids who all wanted to go to the SEC or Ohio State or things like that, and he made them see Notre Dame, the value of Notre Dame, what Notre Dame can do for you life after football. And
Agree.
And it was never money talk on the front end. Like, hey, there's going to be some opportunity because it's a landscape. On the flip side, I think that you see other programs out there where players are purchased.
Yep.
And where
like a commodity.
And I think Coach Freeman did a real job. Like, we're a relationship family, so it was. There's a lot of transactions out there, and it's two-way, right? Like, some kids are going to schools for the transaction,
Right.
so it's not just the coach.
Right.
And I wonder, this is not, I don't know this, but I wonder sometimes, is there frustration there? Like, if I pay a lot of money for a quarterback, I'm forced to play him, right? Like,
Yeah. Good point.
Like,
because
and-
much more of a, like you said, transactional
Yeah.
versus I'm making
Right.
these guys into men.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if I have a quarterback that I'm paying a lot of money, and I'm not seeing the success, do I have to keep him in?
Right. Good point.
So,
and you got pressure from donors and boosters and alumni and all this stuff. So,
I'd be curious to see how that played out. But Notre Dame does well with that.
As a college football fan and a longtime Notre Dame fan, I noticed it seemed like last year when we got Hartman as our quarterback, it seemed like Notre Dame started doing things differently, and I wondered if it was related to NIL or if this was Hartman. They were putting out jerseys with the name on the back.
Yeah.
So right now I could buy a Drayk Bowen jersey. I didn't know. I would hope that if I bought a Drayk Bowen jersey with his name on the back, I would hope that he would get something out of it. I always figured that was part of the NIL deal because I'd never seen that until the last couple of years.
So I believe like they have something collegiately with Fanatics, and there's a small piece that'll go back after a certain amount. I don't know the numbers on that. I just know he opted in.
I'm buying a Drayk Bowen jersey. I'm just like,
it's hard not
You'll
to
see
after
me at
this
the next
interview, man.
tailgate.
Love it.
Dude, I'm impressed, by the way. Like, it seems like you got a little football factory. You and your wife are doing a great job raising. Seriously, I want to like grow up in your house right now. So is that all right?
Can you call me every day and give me some good advice? All right, Kevin, remember, you're no better than anybody. You're no worse than anybody today.
Fight for that last name, Smith.
You're like, hey, Jeremy, give me my daily, man. But talking about Dylan a little bit, right? I mean, so you have a son.
Dylan's your second oldest?
And he plays for Hanover Central.
He does.
He's a linebacker, I think, or a safety, because I saw him this great interception against Hobart. I saw that. And he got his first offer. Congratulations from Illinois. First D1 offer.
Junior?
He's a junior.
So let me, you've got kind of one already rolling at Notre Dame. Did you modify or do anything different with Dylan? What'd you learn from the Drayk experience that now you're utilizing with Dylan?
Yeah, you pair it differently. Like each kid's a little different. So on the recruiting end, it's a little different because he's highly recruited in baseball. And so there's different conversations. New rules came into effect this summer. The landscape changed a little bit. So on that, but as it relates to like work and how you're doing it, like Drayk was a get up at 4:30. I should already have the heat on in the garage for him to get his lifts in, go lift with his team.
That is awesome.
Dylan doesn't love that. Like Dylan likes to work out with his team. Hanover has a great strength and conditioning program and facility. Like that's where he goes. Last night he went to the hub, Bobby Morris's place over there. I'm like, hey, you want me to go with you? No, I'm good. Dylan likes almost to work alone.
Sure.
Or with
and their kids
buddies.
like that.
I'm a lone wolf when I work out, too.
And so learning that, like with Drayk, I felt like I had to be present a lot more. And he didn't always request it, but you and Andre and your kids did. I mean, they got a target on their back in the region.
For sure.
So there was almost a protection mode sometimes, like being around, with that. With Dylan, he's just he's a lone wolf, and he invites me on the journey when he feels like it. I'll be if I'm out of town on a road game, he may not call me. I just got to text him, hey, love you.
Kids are different, right?
In
Kids
case
are
the flight
different.
goes down, I love you.
Yeah,
and Drayk will call me every day,
like
he
you
just likes
said.
to talk. Yeah.
So it's interesting you said about football, baseball. So Dylan's offer was for football, but he's also being recruited for baseball. Was Drayk recruited for baseball as well as football? But he knew he wanted to go football early on?
So Drayk was recruited for baseball first. So
Catcher?
Shortstop.
So, a freaking middle linebacker and a shortstop.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Notre Dame actually was one of his first calls early on. And then all of his offers except for Vandy, they didn't need him for baseball. And then Wisconsin doesn't have baseball.
I just visited their baseball field.
Wisconsin does not have a baseball team.
Title IX.
Did not know that.
And it's a funny story on that is his baseball guy that we were with would always say, are you a football or a baseball player? And he was like, I'm both. And he was like, well, what's your top 5? And Drayk listed at the time when it was early on, like, I'd like Wisconsin too because they produce linebackers. He goes, you're a football guy. They don't have baseball. and so, yeah, Dylan's all his visits and everything so far. That was the first football offer. It kind of came out of the blue. We weren't necessarily expecting it, but he's a big baseball guy.
Yeah. And any idea where he's thinking about going yet, or it's kind of up in the air?
So we just left Oklahoma State last weekend.
Good baseball
He's got
team.
to visit Arizona State this weekend. We're going to go to.
It's fun just going to the schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Hey,
it's cool.
I'll go to Arizona
cool,
with you.
right?
What the heck, right?
Yeah, and then he's got a visit to TCU. I'm sure he'll be down at IU because he just moved a different visit to be able to go visit them, and then he talks with a lot of schools.
That's great.
So what are you doing with their college fund? You just like buying a house with it or something?
I'm just rolling it down.
That's it, man. Yeah.
I love it.
I don't know if I have another travel circuit in me at 50, so maybe crew gets it all.
There you go. You mentioned strength and conditioning and how important it was to the boys and is to Dylan and obviously was to Drayk. What have you seen? Now that Drake's at Notre Dame, what have you seen the change in strength and conditioning? I know Notre Dame hired a new strength and conditioning coach this year. Mm-hmm. Do you see a difference in what happens from a getting ready from a body standpoint between high school and college?
Absolutely, because you think you're always preparing them for the next level. Like in high school, we were thinking about winning on the field, practice, things like that, but you were like, that's why we kept moving up weights each year. That was all calculated with nutrition, with supplementation, with weightlifting. Everything we did, there was a plan. And so you get them there and you're like, all right, yeah, he's 230 going in, and then watching them just shred them up. I mean, it was a different strength coach when we got there, but Drayk enjoys Landau. And things I've noticed are like, there was not necessarily critiques in high school about his hip mobility, right? Things like that. Watching him being able to turn side to side to get into coverage a little bit more because the game's changed. A lot of run game in Northwest Indiana and Indiana as a whole, being able to watch that kind of stuff. So seeing that, listening at their movements, more explosive, not necessarily lifting the heaviest weight, which we had a great guy around here that designed all Drake's
no kidding
programs, and it was all based on high reps, not necessarily highest weight or greatest weight. And so it was like what he said when he was working with Drayk was like, hey, we're training you for the fourth quarter. Like, we're not training now. And I feel like I see that with Landau a lot. So
that's what he's looking at to get him ready for the full game.
It's what it feels
season,
like based on what I've not met him, talked to him, but based on the way Drayk talks about their lifts are. It's like, how many times can you do this 10 times? Can you do this weight 10 times? If not, that's not your weight.
Interesting. Good.
That's interesting. I'm telling you, man, this is a great decision to bring you in. I really appreciate you coming by Lockpod.
Such good insight. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Like as a parent, who with kids play sports, and you think they're pretty good,
Right.
and it just if you look all around Northwest Indiana, right, how many kids are really going D1? There's not many. I mean, there are some, but it's a handful. And to have you in here just to talk about your experience has been really, really interesting. So I appreciate it. It's great.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
You going this weekend?
Oh, yeah.
You don't miss, right?
Yeah.
I'm only missing one this year. I'm missing the Navy game because I got to take Dylan to TCU.
Oh, you mean you go to everyone, even on the road, too?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you, bud.
Good parent group out there?
Oh, yeah. The parents are awesome.
Yeah.
The kids are awesome. The parents are awesome. It's
Notre Dame.
No, it's Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And I tell fans like that, like, you got to think about there's a lot of parity in college football now. NIU comes in, we should have won that game.
Yep.
18, I think it's 18 returning starters, 30 seniors. They took Kentucky to the brink last year.
Good point.
They weren't scared of the environment that's at ND and transfer portal. I mean, they don't take undergrads really, and you can't go pull a D line with the 2.7 GPA out of someplace in the South to get to Notre Dame. So
right.
It's a great place.
Well, good luck this year. We're obviously going to be following as fans. We watch every game, or we're there. So
let's do this again, man.
It'd be good.
No, I'd love to.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys.
If anything happens, I'm going to call you, okay?
All right.
Thanks, Jeremy. This
All
is
right.
Jeremy
Thank you,
Bowen,
guys.
Awesome, man.
son of Drayk. We're looking forward to you and seeing what Dylan does, and obviously what your son Drake's doing, and then your son,
daughter Dallas.
And
then, she's in South Carolina for softball right now.
And in 16 years, we're going to have crew on. We'll have you on with the crew.
Yeah,
man.
He'll be leading it. I'll be taking the elevator this
There you
time.
go. There you go. Go
Thanks
Irish.
a lot, Jeremy. It's great to see you in the studio. Pleasure to meet you. That was Jeremy Bowen. A great interview, and I just want to say thanks for listening to Lockpod. Season 13, episode 12 is in the books. Thanks again, and we're going to be back on Tuesday. I'm not sure if we have a guest lined up.
We don't, just you and me, man.
But we do have a story saved that we were going to cover this time on Tuesday, but we appreciate everybody listening. Lockpod, season 13, episode 12. Thanks, Jill, for coming in. Great to see you. Jay Vez, another great job. Yep. Kevin Smith, and coming from you from the Locomotive, Mayor Tom. Great to talk to everybody, and we'll see you on Tuesday. Lockpod is out.